where they came from. This story belonged to the Jakarta tales, which are part of the sacred Buddhist literature. The Jakarta are a collection of 547 stories that deal with anecdotes, legends, and fables about the incarnations of the Buddha prior to his existence as such between 563 and 483 BCE. Jakarta's stories are dated between 300 BCE and 400 CE. That is, they were composed over 7 centuries. The following came from an article by Andrew Schelling, which appeared in the Tricycle magazine Fall 1991. The Jakarta tales from which the story comes gather some of the earliest and strangest writings presented to the Buddhist heritage. Jakarta means birth. The old collection inscribed in a vernacular language called Pali preserves 550 legends which tell of the Buddha's miraculous births in the eons before he became enlightened. The stories occur in a rough hewn prose studied with cryptic shards of a much older verse. It is in these broken oddments of poetry that you find something remarkably ancient, animal tales dating in all likelihood to the Paleolithic times. Folklore and archaeology suggest that the Jakarta interest in wild animal personalities is not an isolated instance. The earliest pictorial art largely depicts animals. Think of the Magdalenian cave paintings found in Spain and southern France, or compatible rock art that survives across the planet. There's every reason to believe that the earliest verbal art was concerned with similar themes. As written documents, the Jakarta tales are ancient, but from any anthropological perspective, they took comparatively recently. Humans have been speaking for 40,000 years, perhaps longer. During that time span, the animal fable occurred many places, but survives into this day largely in cultures like India, where the old spoken lore met on friendly terms with the scholar's pen. I do believe, however, that the Jakarta tales register the first instant in written literature of what I call cross-species compassion, or Jakarta mind, an immediate and unqualified empathy shown towards creatures not of one's own biological species. Perhaps the tales retain traces of a universal contact between living creatures, so long ago vanished that no one remembers its ancient imperatives. With a bow to the old stories, Jakarta mind is that conscious human being behavior which bears with that old way of thinking. Tales like the one just recounted were meant to awaken a notion of kingship that sweeps across animal species. Animals in the Jakarta simply justify the storyteller's interests. They show themselves to be of an equal, often a higher, ethical order than humans. 1,000, 2,000, maybe 10,000 years after these tales first began to circulate through the villages and pass along the trade routes of Asia, Buddhism casts the Jakarta tales into philosophical form. The Diamond Sutra, a central document in India, Tibet, China, and Japan, makes explicit what the old stories had gestured towards. It is here that the Buddha announced an unqualified brother and sisterhood of creatures. One should produce a thought in this manner. As many beings as there are in the universe of beings, comprehended under the term beings, egg-born, born from a womb, moisture-born, or miraculous-born, with or without form, with perception, without perception, and with neither perception nor non-perception, as far as any conceivable form of beings is conceived. All these I must lead out of misery. The fundamental vow of the Buddhist practitioner, fashioned 2,000 years ago in India, makes explicit that ethical stance. India, however, has passed both metaphysics and ethics down the ages in a nearly hallucinogenic cloak of symbols. Myth, folklore, dance, sculpture, music, and painting have made sophisticated doctrine readily available to the popular mind. Thus, the finest poem of Buddhist India, which cast its metaphysical into durable shape, was in fact of a recasting of the ancient Jakarta tales.